Welcome to the Star Wars Fandolorians podcast, where every week we talk about the latest trends in Star Wars, newest episodes and movies and all that kind of stuff. We love to rip on each other a little bit and talk about vintage Star Wars toys and adventures of days gone by. So, with all that said, here are your hosts, us, Kevin and Craig. Good morning, afternoon, whatever it is, wherever you are. This is Kevin and Craig with the Star Wars Fandolorians, and I just wanted to say I am back.
Welcome
from
back.
Vacation. Yes. I know you're so happy I'm back.
Oh, I am.
To give another lovely rant.
Oh, no. We don't have to go down that road right away.
No. I think it's kind of interesting. You know, when I go on these trips to Disney, and mostly I go because my wife is a Disney blogger, but you know, it gives me a chance to kind of really put myself in the Disney bubble and get into the Star Wars thing. And I gotta say, even though and I think I've said this in previous episodes, you know, I'm not a huge fan of what they've done. Some of the new things
nobody heard of.
Yeah, some of the new things. Yeah. I will say for what it is, they have done an incredibly good job for what it is. You know, that said, I brought back a couple of trinkets, a couple of things, if you will.
Nice. So it's like show and tell. I love it.
Yeah, show and tell.
Harkens me back to kindergarten.
Well, it's a lesser form of kindergarten. Not quite as fun, I guess, but so I there's a few things that people may or may not know about this new world at Star Wars Galaxy's Edge. It's based on this planet, this fictional planet called Batuu. And what you're looking at behind me here is what they call Black Spire Outpost. This is actually there. Like, I actually stood next to the Millennium Falcon for the first time in my life, and it was insane. It was insane.
Man. That must have been awesome.
That part right there was probably worth the entire trip for me. That alone was worth the entire trip.
Wow.
But they have all kinds of stuff for Star Wars fans to partake in. Like, they have you can build your own lightsaber, you can build your own droid, stuff like that. Yeah.
I would definitely do the lightsaber thing.
Well, I said that too.
Oh no.
Until I found out it's $200 to build your own lightsaber and $8.99 or something to ship it home.
Really?
Yeah, man. I was a little like,
what about
I wanted to, and I had the money to do it, but I'm like, it just seemed like such a waste to me. Like $200, man. That's a. If it had been $100, I might have shelled out the dough. But at $200, it just is, But at the same time, I mean, you talk to people while you're there, and they say, oh, it's worth the experience. It's worth the money you shell out and everything, because it is an actual experience where you go and you build your own actual hilt for a lightsaber, like a real metal hilt. Like, it's not.
That's crazy.
There's no plastic involved.
Wow.
So it is cool. I will admit it's really cool. And if you're a diehard Star Wars fan, it may be something you're willing to shell the money out for. But
I'm sure a lot of people have and will.
Yeah.
And what about the?
Oh, they have. What about I saw people carrying them around in these these sacks all day long? But yeah.
Now, what about the droid? It's not a full scale droid, is it?
It's pretty darn close. I mean, like.
God.
Well, and it was awesome because I actually saw somebody using one of these at Hollywood Studios. What it is they're I don't know if I can give a scale, but they're probably a little bit smaller than what you would envision like BB-8 being. But you can get a BB-8 style, you can get an R2 style. And quite honestly, I mean they might have been worth it, but because you can actually like really play with these things. I mean, they come with these controls. I saw this little girl playing with one in the afternoon. They're like $80, I think, $80, $90 somewhere in there.
Yeah.
But you can get like personality chips for the droids and all this other crazy
Wow.
stuff. It's really cool. It is really
That's
cool.
wicked cool. Man, I probably would have wanted to do the droid thing even more than the lightsaber one.
Yeah, and I didn't do the droid thing only because at that point strictly because of time constraints. And the other thing is that if you're planning on going there, I'm going to tell you the biggest thing that I feel like I missed out on when I went was Oga's Cantina, because they have a cantina there that is literally, I mean, everything you would envision in a cantina. Like if you watched episode 4 and you saw like it's just kind of like that, you know, inside.
Nice.
And they have like they serve the blue milk and the green milk in there and all that stuff, right? So the thing is, like, it's great, but you have to have a reservation for this place like 3 months in advance. And if you don't get your reservation, and I mean, they say there's a chance you could get it on walk up, but I wasn't able to get it on walk up, and I tried. So I don't know. Whatever, but I did bring back some trinkets. I just want to touch on a few things. Mentioning the lightsaber. I actually was standing in line at one other place, a gift shop or something, and this guy gave me this is a kyber crystal.
Oh, nice. Yes.
All right. Yep. So like you can buy different colored kyber crystals for your saber. No, this is one of them. This is a red one.
Yeah, that's what powers the lightsabers.
Yeah, it's I haven't opened it yet. There's like plastic wrapped around it and stuff, but I think I may open this just to give us an idea of what it's like. I may fiddle with that as we're
That's
going
pretty
along.
Cool.
And I brought back something for you, my friend, because I know one thing about you. You love games. You love games like nobody I know.
Yep.
All right.
Can't get enough games.
Well, I happen to bring back a game.
Oh, yeah. That card game.
Of Sabacc.
Yes.
All right.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah. I thought you'd dig that, man.
That's awesome, man.
I thought you'd dig that.
Yeah, for sure.
So I'll get that off in the mail to you.
Thanks.
I wish I could be closer to play it, but and then there is something else I brought back with me, but I'm going to save him for another episode.
Okay.
So
you will be in suspense for that.
Yeah, well, no big suspense, I guess, but yeah, game of Sabacc I figured was a good way to go. I looked at all the souvenirs and stuff they had there, and I'm like, T-shirts and hats and keychains forever. Oh my god! If somebody collected keychains, you could come out of there with like 20 different keychains in one shop. I bet.
I used to collect shot glasses when I went to different places. I'm sure they have those.
Tons everywhere.
Yeah.
And if we spent a day in Epcot over there, and if you go around the world, just in Mexico, Germany, Italy, all those different worlds in Epcot, you would probably get like 20 shot glasses in each one, I bet, because they have that many. It's people drink around the world there. I mean, it's just it's a huge thing. So, but anyway,
all right.
On to what we came here to talk about in the first. Well, we came here to talk about Star Wars, I guess. So it doesn't really matter. But yeah, why don't you kind of lead us into, because we're talking about the last two episodes. The first one was called The Heiress, and I don't remember what the last one was called. So you're gonna have to help me there.
Oh yes, it's called The Siege.
Yeah.
Chapter 12.
That's right.
So we'll start with 11, obviously.
Yep.
And the big thing in this was he went to Mon Calamari, the fish planet, I guess, if you want to call it. And he was out on that fishing trawler, and they tricked him into watching that sea creature feed. And you remember they threw Baby Yoda in there, and I'm sure everybody was like, "Oh my God, Baby Yoda's getting eaten."
Yeah. I mean, I gotta say that episode was, in my opinion, I think we're starting to get to where we wanted to be by watching this episode. It's the action right out of the gate. Right out of the gate.
So of course he dives in to save the child, and then they trap him with that grating, because they wanted his Beskar. So who comes to his rescue but 3 Mandalorians, mysterious Mandalorians, and we find out that it's actually Bo-Katan. So that was a nice surprise.
Right, and I don't think that a lot of people who are even if you're an old school Star Wars fan, you may or may not even know who Bo-Katan is. And not only that, but I'm quite sure that a lot of the new fans that the Mandalorians brought in may or may not know who Bo-Katan is either.
Oh, I mean, I had to do a refresher, and I went back and I actually watched some of the Clone War episodes with her in it.
I think she was in Rebels too, wasn't she?
Yeah, she was in Rebels with Sabine Wren.
Yeah,
they were fighting together.
I wonder what the relationship.
Sabine had the Darksaber.
Ah, okay.
She had the Darksaber in that one, and she was looking for someone worthy of wielding it. Basically, the Darksaber is like Excalibur.
Yep.
To Mandalore. Yep. Whoever is worthy of wielding it becomes the leader of Mandalore.
Yep.
So it's like that in a way. So Sabine was looking for someone to wield it, and she wanted to give it to Bo-Katan.
So that bodes a question then, and I got to back us up a hair as to how Moff Gideon was able to wield the Darksaber.
That's what we're gonna have to find out, because I looked everywhere and they don't tell you. So I think that's something that they're going to reveal in the later chapters of The Mandalorian. So basically, Bo-Katan was actually like leader of Mandalore twice now, and she lost it both times. Lost her position.
How do you do that?
Well, the first time,
I mean, I've worked for the same company twice, so I kind of can get that, I guess. But
in the Clone Wars, it was her and Ahsoka going after Maul.
Yep.
Because Maul had this shadow collective, and he took over Mandalore. So they went and they fought him and got him out of there. And then Ahsoka left Bo-Katan to rule Mandalore again. So then there was Order 66 happened. And that kind of like led the Republic forces along with this clan Saxon, which was a clan on Mandalore that was loyal to the Empire. Or it wasn't the Empire yet, but loyal to Palpatine.
Yeah.
And along with Order 66, they ousted Bo-Katan. So that's how she lost it the first time. The second time, after Sabine gave her the Darksaber, and she went back and she was leader of Mandalore again, then the Empire, which was in power, came in with this great Mandalore. It's called the Great Purge of Mandalore. And they ousted her again. And they said she lost the Darksaber, and somehow it ends up in Moff Gideon's hands. And that's what we have to hopefully find out, how that happens.
Well, yeah, that's I mean, it's kind of, to me, the whole thing is kind of interesting, because unless you saw Clone Wars or Rebels, you wouldn't even know who Bo-Katan is. Right. So to me, that means that this storyline is really where Disney themselves are really taking a whole lot of liberties, because that didn't exist before. At least that I'm aware of. I mean,
here's the question I have though. Okay. She was in the Clone Wars, Bo-Katan, and now she's like here in the Mandalorian, which is like years and years and years later after the fall of the Empire. She's a human female. You'd think she would be really old.
Yeah.
That's the part I don't really get. You think she would be ancient by now.
Can I say something else too? That what I'm curious about, did anybody else notice the voice of Bo-Katan sounding like very, very familiar?
Yeah, so the voice actress that did Bo-Katan in the Clone Wars is actually the live action actress that did Bo-Katan in the Mandalorian. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
That they chose her to do that, you know?
Yeah, I think that bodes well for the continuity of the story and what they're going to be doing moving forward. Hopefully, you know, if you have someone play a certain character in one, you know, in a cartoon facet, then, you know, hopefully you can have them play it in live action. I mean, I'll bet you that Katie Sackhoff, I think it's Katie Sackhoff, if I'm saying that right, the woman who played her was probably like extraordinarily through the moon that they offered her that role, you know, that she got to play that character in real life. Like that's just so cool. I would plus, if I were her, I'd be through the moon.
Yeah, plus they made her look real like a spitting image of the cartoon. They really did a good job making her look like Bo-Katan.
Yeah, no, they did. They definitely did.
So it was impressive.
I'd like to see more of that character. I'd like to see more, and I know we will. I just don't know how far down the road. The problem that we're running into, I think, at this point is that these episodes, and I think you and I kind of talked about this because you and I watched the last episode. So I think it's really great that they're doing these episodes and adding in all these new characters. But I think the biggest problem or the biggest drawback is that we only have 30 or 40 minutes an episode, and there's only 8 episodes in a season.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah,
I wanted to touch on that, and I almost forgot. But yeah, you were saying before on one of our previous episodes, you were talking about how they're going to vary, like the minutes, the length of the episodes.
Yep.
Are going to vary, and you're like, oh, sometimes maybe we'll get like an hour, sometimes we'll get less than that or whatever. But I've been a bit disappointed where the last couple chapters were around like 38 minutes or so or something like that.
Yep.
And I feel like kind of cheated a little bit, you know. I want some longer. Obviously we want longer episodes.
You know, I've got to go back actually, and there's one thing because listen, I pay attention to the news quite a bit.
Yep.
And I read this article. Now you tell me how nutso this sounds. I read this article. It was, this is going back to the episode with the child where he ate the eggs and okay.
Yeah.
All right. The title of this article is Baby Yoda Devoured a Woman's Children and We Need to Talk About It.
Oh no, are you kidding?
I'm not even joking, man.
I hope they're not serious.
Like this article has got to be, I don't know, 500 words of this nonsense. But my thing is, and there are people, according to what I understand, there are people that seriously are taking offense to this. They are taking offense to a fictional character in a fictional world. How many fictional race's eggs?
Really? How many people are going to just read the headlines? You know, there's people that only read headlines.
Oh yeah.
So you're going to have a whole bunch of people that just read the headlines.
Yeah. And
they're going to be, oh my God, this is horrible. And you know, they're going to go off on that. So, and then you're going to get the people that actually read the article that go, oh, well, it's not that as bad as I thought. And then you're going to get the people that still are offended even after reading both the headline and the article.
And I mean, it's so funny. It's so funny to me because this was actually brought up to me by another fan. And they said, you realize there are actually people out there who are freaking out about this. And I'm like, who? Like nobody I know.
Are like Star Wars fans freaking out over this?
I don't know. I don't know if they're and I mean, you know, this goes back to, and I won't get into this. I won't go down this rabbit hole, but this goes back to the whole, you know, real fans versus fans that came in because of Baby Yoda and stuff like that. And I really can't, I'm sorry, I can't call you a real fan if the only reason that you are into Star Wars is because of Baby Yoda.
Let's hope I'm nuts. Let's hope Baby Yoda was like the catalyst to get them into Star Wars, and then they discovered everything else.
If it was like you said, if it was the catalyst that then they go back and they watch Rebels and they're like, oh,
so they actually get into Star Wars because of all the other Star Wars elements. And not just to follow Baby Yoda for the rest of his life.
as much as some people would like this to be, it is not the Baby Yoda show.
Well,
just sorry, guys.
Unfortunately, a big part of it is.
Yeah, well, he'd be dead without Mando, so
that's true. But then you got to look at it, and it would be so easy if, like we were talking about before, you know how Moff Gideon wants the child.
Yeah,
and we were talking about Boba Fett maybe like capturing him for a bounty. Well, it would be so easy for him to do that because the Mandalorian keeps dropping Baby Yoda off in these places where like, and it's like, really, it's like he dropped him off in chapter 11. He dropped him off with the frog lady. That would have been so easy. That would have been too easy to take the child from there. Okay. Yeah. And then in this last one, he dropped him off at a school.
Yeah. No, and by the way, I think we figured out one thing for sure. Baby Yoda is the class clown.
Oh yeah.
I don't care what anybody says. He is the class clown. Because that was just awesome. I mean, the whole Force thing, like whoop, pulling the food. Yeah, that's just, yeah. I could see myself doing that. So I give him that.
Man, yeah. If I had Force powers.
We can do a whole episode on this. What would you do if you had Force powers?
Oh my god, the sky's the limit, man. It would be over. I'd be doing everything. I'd probably be like 900 pounds because I would never have to get up again. I'd be just pulling everything,
floating around,
pulling everything towards me. Like, here you go. All right, I don't have to go downstairs. I'll just grab the drink from
teeth. No problem.
No, but seriously, all right. So getting back to where we were with Bo-Katan and on the fish trawler.
Yeah. Yep.
So after they save Baby Yoda from whatever that creature was down there that was going to eat him. So she takes her helmet off, and that was like the big no-no for the Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm.
So then she explains to him that he's actually part of a cult.
Yeah,
like called the Children of the Watch,
or at least she explained from her prerogative that
right,
he was
from
part of a cult,
her perspective, yes,
called the Watch, and because the other guy was like, oh, he's one of them.
But it was the mainstream ideology for Mandalore, and I guess it fell out of the mainstream. So now they're considered religious zealots who never take their helmets off. That's part of their, and I guess there's other doctrines as well, which we'll probably find out. But so they're not mainstream anymore. And it's going to be interesting to see how Mando deals with that. And that was an awesome scene. That whole scene with the freighter and the siege on the freighter.
Yeah.
I love that. That was great.
Yeah, they did. Again, the action sequences are amazing. They've really done a great job. I mean, you can see. I mean, look, when they tell you $7 to $10 million per episode, they're not kidding.
No, they looks like they're spending every last dollar of it too.
Yep.
So they go through, and they really showed you the power of the Beskar, or how good it is.
Right.
Because when he had to run down that hall,
and he was getting blasted,
they were blasted. It was the one time the stormtroopers could hit the target, I guess.
Yeah, right. Which, see, I don't know. The inconsistency about stormtroopers is driving me a little batty, but whatever.
Well, that time there must have been an elite squad of stormtroopers at that point, or something.
Is there such a thing? Wait a minute. There is, but they're called death troopers. Remember, they're the black.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll get to that.
Somehow it doesn't hold weight with me, this whole stormtrooper thing. Because listen, we all know, and they've even said it in some of the other episodes, like they can't hit the broadside of a barn. Now all of a sudden they're like completely decimating Mando. Yes, I get for a fact you got to do it, but
they wanted to show you how powerful the Beskar was. I guess you could take a whole bunch of blaster shots and you can just keep going. And
yeah,
I mean, sure, he was.
Wait a minute. What do you mean we're going to get back to the Death Trooper thing? Hold on a second here.
Yeah, we're jumping ahead here. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it, man.
Okay.
But you don't know what I'm talking about? I
think so.
All right.
But
so yeah, that was a great episode.
So the whole thing with the end of that episode though, and how they left it. I mean, every episode they do kind of leave you hanging a little bit. I will admit, because then I didn't know where they were going to go from there. Kind of like even before that, the whole ice spider thing. I'm like, okay, now we see and by the way, the rebellion comes in. Like you never know which way they're going to go with these storylines, and so I'm left wondering week to week, like, where are we going this week? It really is kind of an adventure in that sense. And that's that. I think that's what keeps us watching. I think that's what keeps us so excited about the show.
Well, that was big when she was interrogating that officer at the end of that, and when the ship was going down, and she's trying to find out where the Darksaber was, where Moff Gideon was with her Darksaber.
Yeah.
And then
good acting.
Find out about
really intense.
Yeah, it was good. And that guy was such a fanatic, man. He was ready to die at every moment for the rest of what was left of the Empire.
Yeah. Yeah.
So then we find out after that, we find out she tells Mando about Ahsoka. So we have our first verified Ahsoka in the Mandalorian.
Yep. It's the first time she's been mentioned. Yes. I believe her name has actually been mentioned.
So we should see her later, which is going to be really cool.
I think that's going to be awesome. But I think, this plays back into the fact that we kind of had heard that there was either going to be a spinoff with Ahsoka or that there was going to be a movie with Ahsoka. In fact, there is a planned movie with Ahsoka, I believe. And so it's, the speculation is going to become less and less by the week, but also more and more by the week, because they always bring in new characters, and it's a constantly evolving ecosystem of characters, which is great. As long as the characters they're bringing in are ones that we've seen before, that we always go, hey, so what happened to so and so,
Yeah.
And I think it's good that they bring those characters in. Yeah. Before we get to the next episode, I do want to mention I was able to actually open up that kyber crystal.
Oh, it looks like a jelly bean.
You can see that. Yeah, it looks like a jelly bean.
Kinda.
It's got the pointy edges to it. I don't know how well I can actually show that.
It looks like a gem.
Yep. Yeah, it just kind of looks like a gem. But yeah, I thought that was kind of neat that they give you different colors, different options. Anyway.
Well, now, what does that say, though? You picked the red one.
I didn't pick it. It picked me.
What?
It picked me. Dude, some guy came up to me.
That's not a good sign.
Some guy came up to me this is no word of a lie, while I was standing in line at a shop in Black Spire Outpost. And he handed me this. And he said, "Here, I already have one. You can have this one."
Maybe he thought you looked like a Sith.
I'm just saying, man.
I don't know, man. I got to watch you now. You got a red kyber crystal. It's not good. Not good
there's no holocron, okay? There is no holocron. Just.
All right. So moving on to chapter 12, the latest one.
Yep.
We find Mando returning to Navarro, where he joins up again with Grief Karga and Cara Dune, Blue Mithril. So he joins up with them, and Grief decides to try to get his help in taking down an Imperial base that's giving them problems on the planet. So there was a lot of throwbacks to for us old school Star Wars fans in this one. Which is really cool. I like the land speeder that they used to get there. Was like a modified X-34.
Yeah, it was like it was modified. You could tell.
Yeah, it had huge, bigger the bigger jets in the back.
Yeah. Well, and you know what? I got thinking about it. And they actually had that speeder last season. The one, I forget which episode it was, but it was the one where he was out on the ocean and he was crossing this icy sea with it, and then the creature came up out of the sea.
Yeah.
When Mando actually found him the first time,
Right.
and brought him in and then froze him in carbonite.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's just kind of interesting, how that they do. They've definitely done a good job of little throwbacks here and there, enough to keep us like, okay, this is still Star Wars. They've definitely done a good job.
Yeah, for sure. And then they, when they got to the base, they had that troop transport, which totally brought me back, because I had one of those toys when I was a kid. It was great.
Yep.
Where you put the little stormtrooper action figures in the side pockets. So they found out that this base that they were invading was actually a lab.
Yeah.
Which was what they were leading up to here, like a secret Imperial lab. And they found that hologram, the hologram of this, I guess his name is Dr. Pershing, the one who was experimenting with the child. And he was talking about the M count of Baby Yoda, I guess, which was the subject. And he was talking about how Baby Yoda had a unnaturally high M count.
Yeah.
So that's interesting that they brought the midichlorian thing into this, because that was very controversial.
Yep.
And
as soon as I heard him say that, and you and I were watching that episode together, and as soon as I heard him say it, I was like, oh, this is going to possibly throw some people for a loop.
Because there were some kind of upset Star Wars fans about the whole midichlorian thing.
Yep.
What did you think about it?
Personally, I don't know why people get so upset about some things.
Yeah.
I mean, my personal opinion about that is that this isn't something that Disney brought into this. This was around, this idea of midichlorians was around before Disney. They actually, I think they talked about this in the prequels, in fact.
Yes. That's where it came about in the prequels.
So
but that's what threw everybody off, because they had never talked about midichlorians before that.
Yeah, well, listen. Okay. I understand that people were upset about the prequels, and then there's people that are upset about the new movies, and there's people that are upset because certain things aren't going a certain way in the Mandalorian, the show, and there's certain people that don't think that Rebels should have even existed, and there's people that I mean, listen. At the end of the day, and as much as I complain about stuff, and I know I have my complaints about Disney and the way they've handled some things with Star Wars. At the end of the day, we don't control this universe. We never did. My only thing, and this is really kind of goes back to my childhood passion about Star Wars, is don't rip apart what happened in the original movies. I don't care what you do now, but don't rip apart what happened in the original movies, because that was my childhood. Other than that, have a ball. It's a universe that is so immense and so insanely huge that we can't even, but my biggest, I think the only other problem that I would potentially have because of its ramifications would be, as you said in the previous episode, time travel. I would have a huge problem with that.
Yes.
Because that could potentially affect things that happened in the original films. And I'm no way am I cool with that. No, I'm not cool with any of that.
No, not at all, man. That would be the end. That would be the ending for me.
So
that would be it.
I think that throughout all of this, for me anyway, and probably for you too, I would say, every time I start to go, you know what, this isn't what I signed up for, I shut off, I shut down, I don't watch any of it, and I watch just the original trilogy, and it kind of recenters me, kind of brings me back to where it all started for me. Yeah. And I think anybody should have to do that with their own their own journey with Star Wars, wherever it started for you. Always go back to that thing that brought you in, and you know, really sit and enjoy it and take it in again, like you did when you were a kid, or like you did the first time you saw it. Like, really appreciate what you're watching.
Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I've watched the old trilogy.
Yeah,
I keep rewatching
countless,
movies so many times.
countless.
Especially Empire Strikes Back.
Empire.
Yeah, Empire. I
Empire.
watch constantly, man.
Empire. For those of you who don't know, Craig loves The Empire Strikes Back probably more than he loves some of his family members. And I'm just stating that as a point of fact right here, so you all know.
Wow.
Now, me, on the other hand, episode 4 holds a special place for me. I'm not going to say that it is my ultimate favorite movie, but you know, regardless,
it's up there.
So, but getting back to the Mandalorian, I think that the general direction that they're going in is okay. I like the fact that they're bringing in vintage. I call it vintage, older, you know, vehicles and things like that, and they're trying to throw in older references. So I get that. I do like the fact that they are using older worlds and they're not just making it up as they go along. You know, they're not all Planet Batus, as it were, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah. Yeah.
All right. Well, getting back to the lab, the thing, now we finally find out why Moff Gideon wants the child for the midichlorians in his blood.
Mm-hmm.
And it looks like in the lab, they want to genetically engineer some super troopers with force powers from Baby Yoda's blood, which is
now, listen,
very disturbing.
If I were a Star Wars conspiracy theorist,
yeah,
which I'm not,
okay,
I would say that this could lead into. I mean, I could see how they're taking this down the sciencey road. Road. I don't even know if that's a thing, but they're taking it down that road. And if they go too far down that road, they will end up at time travel. So it does concern me a little. But
well, here's the thing: they're messing with the mysticism of the Force. I think by doing, I wasn't really upset about the midichlorian thing as much as like other people. I thought it was weird. It threw me for a loop for a little bit, but I didn't know what, you know, exactly where they were going to go with that. But basically the whole midichlorian thing just makes it's not as much of like the mysticism, the spiritualness of the Force, you know, how it's like almost like a religion.
Yep.
And then all of a sudden now it's your genetics.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's in your blood. It's there's a midichlorian count.
Yeah, and I totally agree with that. I totally agree with the statement you made right there, 110%. In fact, that's one of the things that has irritated me a little bit more than most, is that they've taken out, because it did. You remember, you watch those original movies where Yoda is talking, the interaction between Yoda and Luke Skywalker on Dagobah.
Mm-hmm.
And he did not ever mention midichlorians. He didn't mention that it was, you know, in his blood. He didn't mention, but he did make it sound like it was a religion. He made it sound like you have to do things this way. And I mean, well, I get it. You can have a gift and not use it, I guess. But
to be fair, the Jedi's withheld a lot of information from Luke.
Yeah.
You know, Darth Vader being a big one.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I mean, and then the Jedi Council was always like secretive too. You know what I mean? So,
yeah, I don't think I want to go down that road.
Okay. We won't then.
I don't want to go down that road, because that'll really yard my chain. If you start talking about like the fact that they had skeletons in the closet they didn't want to talk about, boy, I bet they did. I bet they did.
I'm sure they did.
More than what we know. Yep. So
So yeah, there's there's this whole thing now where they're gonna try to make an army of super death troopers or something for the Empire that might have force powers, and that's pretty freaking scary, man.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
could be,
yeah, it is. Yeah, it is.
that's bad.
I don't I mean, maybe that's where Ahsoka comes into play. I don't know.
Oh yeah, I'm sure she'll join the fight. She's got to, you know what I mean?
It's I really have to wonder where they're going with this. Are they headed? I don't know. There's just so many different ways it could go with this.
Palpatine, from what we've found out from the last trilogy, Palpatine's still around in the shadows, controlling everything. So he's probably got his hand in this. Oh, the Super Troopers.
Super Troopers.
Powers. Yeah. So
you just wanted to say Super Trooper. That's why you even brought it up, isn't it?
Yeah.
Just think it's a bad idea to add troopers, Super Troopers into this thing.
Yeah.
I knew it was coming. I knew it was coming.
You knew I had to do it.
Okay. Anyway.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yeah, I really think it's a bad idea to bring in Super Troopers into this thing, and not just
you got to come up with a different name for Super Troopers. We really do. Death Troopers. They might be. They could be Death Troopers.
No, because
they had Death Troopers.
No, and is that what you were talking about when you said Death Troopers?
Yeah, I thought maybe they were Death Troopers,
No, because the Death Troopers, remember this, the Death Troopers were before Episode 4. And so you had those black, do you remember in Rogue One? They had those were called Death Troopers, the ones in the black.
Yeah, but why couldn't they have them again?
But they didn't have force powers. I mean,
no,
in the movie.
No, I know they didn't have force powers, but now they're trying to incorporate the force powers.
I see what you're saying. What you're saying. Yeah.
So you're not a whole big fan of this plot that they're trying to make genetically engineered force powered troopers?
Again, I think it does. It, just like you said, it takes away from the mysticism of
that you can just inject the force into somebody.
Yeah.
And now they're a Jedi or they're a force wielding maniac.
It used to be more of a religion. It used to be more of, what Mando, I guess Mando and his whole thing is, this is the way. Yeah. Well, that's religion as well. Yeah. So yeah, I do kind of get it when Bo-Katan said, that Mando is of a religious faith-based kind of thing, because we're seeing the same thing, or we saw the same thing rather with the Jedi, where when Yoda taught Luke, and as you said, maybe that's a bad example, but when he taught Luke, it was kind of in this religious kind of way, if you will. So I mean, I don't know. I'm not saying I'm a huge fan of the idea. I can get over it, I guess, as long as they don't go too far with it.
Kind of cheapens the whole force thing, I think, in the whole Jedi mysticism, like I said.
But
if you can just inject it into people and then all of a sudden they have force powers,
But they've been slowly doing that for a long time too. This isn't like this just happened overnight. Like I said, they mentioned Midichlorians back in Revenge of the Sith or whichever one it was, and now we're seeing them kind of expand that storyline even further in that direction. So
actually,
I don't know.
Way back, it was Phantom Menace. Qui-Gon Jinn,
right?
Qui-Gon Jinn mentioned midichlorians when he first met Annie.
That's right.
Anakin as a young kid.
That's right. So, I couldn't remember which one it was, but yeah. But we're seeing is that if this takes over the storyline, then yeah, it could be a thing that I don't like very much. I guess I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what else to say about that.
Well, I think in a way it shows there's a lot on the line, I guess. You know what I mean? You really don't want Moff Gideon coming out with a whole army of Force troopers. Yeah, that would be just pretty much the end. So
I mean, if they can, yeah. So I guess if they're playing it like that and they can stop it early enough before it gets out of hand, yeah, I see what you mean. I see what you mean. I don't know. I don't know.
This leads me to a question I have for you. Or
oh man, not trivia already.
No, not trivia already. We're getting there. Basically, well, I know what the answer is to this, but I just wanted to touch on Moff Gideon some more.
All right.
Basically, I think he makes a great villain for, a great Star Wars villain.
Yeah, I think so too.
I think that type of villain is what was missing in the new trilogy.
Yep. Yeah,
we got instead we had Kylo Ren. You know what I mean? And just Kylo Ren didn't do it. He didn't do it for me.
No.
I'm sorry. No. I mean,
no.
He just seemed like a whiny emo kid with like Force tantrums.
That's
he wasn't
well put.
Thanks. He wasn't intimidating at all. He really wasn't. He's like a spoiled teenager or something. You know what I mean? So, I mean, Moff Gideon is a villain we really needed.
Yeah, you are 100% right there. And I think it is ironic that he's wearing a suit very similar to Darth Vader.
Yes.
I think that is
and he's
very
wielding a
ironic.
Darksaber.
Yep. I mean, you've got to see some of the. I mean, Favreau is just amazing with these little throwbacks, man. Even if they don't mean anything, it's just.
Can you imagine? Can you imagine if Moff Gideon got the blood of the child for his experiments, and then injected himself so he could wield the Force, and then imagine that.
Maybe that's what he's doing. Maybe they aren't building super soldiers. Maybe what they're doing is they're testing it on these subjects before he does it to himself.
Oh, maybe we touched on to something we weren't supposed to know about. That's what's fun about speculation, man. We could have just opened up something that we weren't supposed to know or reveal yet.
I mean, wow. That's now that I find more fascinating for some reason
than the Super Troopers.
And will you stop?
Sorry.
Anyway, yeah, no, I foresee that they could take this storyline a whole lot of different ways, yep. and I think that whatever they end up doing, we're gonna like it, because that's typically what happens with Favreau directing this thing. He does amazing work and never ceases to
he's great.
Amaze me.
He really is. It's just what we needed. Oh, and here's a fun fact. I know you like that fun fact.
Fun
ding,
fact.
Ding, fun
here's
fact.
Your fun fact of the week, folks.
Your fun fact of the week is brought to you by guess who directed this last episode? Episode 12. You're looking it up, aren't you?
No, I was looking up something else actually. Okay. But who?
Carl Weathers.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Do you know what the funny thing is? I've never mentioned this to you, but and maybe somebody watching this somewhere out in YouTube land or wherever can put in the comments and let me know if anybody else has heard of this. But I thought Carl Weathers was dead. I thought he was dead before he showed up in episode 1 of this series in season 1. I thought he was dead.
Well,
just weird, but
his character Apollo Creed got annihilated.
Well, of course, but that's
but
that's another
carry
universe.
On in the real life here.
No, I honestly thought he was dead. I don't know if I'm the only one, but it was just weird.
That is weird. I didn't hear anything about that, so I didn't think he was. But
I didn't. And the weird thing was, I remember I had looked up like something about what was it? Something to do with him and Happy Gilmore. I was like Googling some piece of trivia or something like a year and a half before they came out with episode 1, season 1. And I could have sworn it said that he had died. But I again, I call me crazy. I don't know. But then, okay. So I won't, I was going to hit you with a piece of trivia as well that I had run into this last week.
Well, actually, I wanted to
find it.
I'm glad you brought up the comment section on YouTube, because I really like to see some feedback from some of our viewers, especially on the whole midichlorian thing. I'd like to see what our viewers think about the midichlorians, and if anyone's bothered by it or how they think that's going to play out in the future episodes.
Yeah, I would love to hear. I would love,
or any other kind of feedback. Any other kind of feedback you guys want to put in there? Just like, we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah,
love to hear what you think.
Kevin's hair looks really dried out.
I got too much light on my face, shining off my forehead.
You do look like you. Now that you mention it, Craig, I hadn't even noticed it until you said that. See?
Yep. So, my technicians are on holiday.
Well, I mean, I don't think that I don't think we have a ton of watchers right now anyway. So people will go back and they'll watch these videos, like a year or two from now, and they'll be like, "Look at these idiots." They had no idea what they were doing,
right?
But that's how it works. That's how it works. So,
all right. So you want to move on to our trivia segment?
Well, if I do, I think that it's only right that you go first, because I am not prepared for this, so I'm going to try.
Well, neither am I this time.
All right, well then I'll go first, because I do have one I can hit you with right off the bat. Well, I've got a pretty good one here. So
yeah, mine's pretty tough. I didn't even know this. I'm just trying to. I got to even the score here because I'm behind.
Well, all right. This is going to be tough on both ends, but I honestly don't know the answer to this, so we're going to wing this. In episode... Boy, you're going to really hate me for this.
We're both going to hate each other after this, I think.
In episode 6, Return of the Jedi, the growls and sounds of the Rancor in Jabba's palace were actually made by what animal? It's multiple choice. You can kill me later.
Wow.
Were the growls and sounds of the Rancor in Jabba's palace made by a pigeon, a panther, a wolverine, or a dachshund? Oh, sorry, a dachshund.
Yeah, I got you. Wow.
Pigeon, panther, wolverine, or dachshund? Pigeon, panther, wolverine, or dachshund?
Now, pigeon seems like the least likely, but it seems like a trick that it could actually be used to do that somehow, maybe.
I'm just trying to think of like what the Rancor actually sounded like.
Yeah, exactly.
I bet I know which one it was. I bet I know which one it was.
I was gonna go with Wolverine. That was my first instinct, but I'm gonna just say it's a trick, and I'm gonna go pigeon.
Oh, I don't think you should have done that, but we're gonna find out.
Oh no,
because I think it's a Wolverine. So let's see. Pigeon, wrong. Wolverine, wrong.
Oh, okay. I feel better now.
So that means it had to have been a panther. Let's see.
Really?
No. Yeah.
Dotson.
So it says the growls and sounds of the Rancor in Jabba's palace were actually remixed from an audio recording of an aggressive Dotson.
Oh my God. It was the last thing you would.
This never gets. I mean, like, how? What? That's some crazy trivia, people. That is some crazy trivia right there.
That is
I
crazy.
never would have guessed that. Never would have guessed.
No, that was
seen totally, that movie a billion times.
That was just a total shot in the dark guess, and I got it wrong.
We were both wrong. I mean, like, even if I guessed Panther, would have been wrong. Nobody would have guessed a Dotson. Like, that's the least.
I thought maybe they took a pigeon and like messed with the effects, messed with the sound.
Turns out they did that, but they did it with a Dotson.
Yeah.
So anyway.
All right, ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Are you ready for your real tough one?
Oh, God.
Okay. This character used to smuggle guns before opening a diner on Coruscant and is partially named after George Lucas's son.
Okay.
Do you need the multiple choice?
Yes.
Okay. Is it A, Dexter Jetster, B, Miles Flukas, C, Georgian Dirks, or D, Miles Lowe?
B?
B, Miles Flukas. It was A, Dexter Jetster.
I never would have guessed that in a million years.
No. So we both just don't get any points this week, and it stays at, I believe it's 2-1.
Yep.
2-1. Stays at 2-1 for this week.
That sucked. That was awful.
Yeah.
We need to be more selective, I think, on these. Well, I don't know, because you could get lucky, but
you could get lucky. Yeah, with multiple choice, you could. Eventually, the odds are you're going to hit it once in a while.
Yeah. I think people should know too. We are on Spotify. We're on Apple Podcasts. You can also find us on YouTube. If you go to Fandolorians.com, which is FANDOLORIANS.com, you will get to our YouTube channel directly. We've tried to put that in on the Facebook page, which you can also find us on Facebook, Twitter, yada, yada, yada. But we've tried to put that on the Facebook page, and it doesn't like it for some reason. Facebook does not want you to redirect links.
Well, yeah, definitely check out our Fandolorian page, like Kevin is mentioning, because from time to time we put up some information and some funny memes.
Oh yeah,
funny Star Wars memes up there, and there's some participation going on, so it's a lot of fun.
We may actually, eventually we may turn that into a group, like a private group, and get where you guys can interact with us directly a little more. But I think that's it for this week's episode, unless you got anything else, Craig. But thank you all for joining us this week, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week on Fandolorians. And I hope when I come back here next week, I actually have an image that's as good as this one, because this has held up incredibly well with the green screen this week. All right, so we will see you guys next week. Have a good one.